I stood there in the driveway, clutching my keys, as my grandkids' laughter sliced through the humid July air like a knife. Grandma Harper, that rusty old sedan is an embarrassment. Alex, my 22-year-old grandson, sneered, leaning against the shiny black Lamborghini I'd been quietly paying for. Arya, his 20-year-old sister, giggled, tossing her hair. Seriously, Gran, it's like you're driving a museum piece. Get with the times. Jordan, the youngest at 18, just smirked, scrolling on his phone. I forced a smile, my heart twisting, and said nothing. They didn't know the truth about my old junk car, the secret I'd been keeping about their precious Lambo. 3 days later, when the tow truck rolled up to their mansion, their smug grins vanished. But the real shock came when Mr. Carter, my lawyer, handed me a document that made my hands tremble. Henry, my late husband, had left me something they'd never see coming. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're from. My name is Harper, and this is the story of how my grandkids' betrayal pushed me to reclaim my life and my power. I was 65, widowed for 5 years, living in a modest 2-bedroom house in suburban Georgia. My old sedan, a 1998 Toyota Corolla, was my pride. Henry and I bought it when we were young, scraping by, dreaming of a future wed build together. Every dent told a story. The time we drove cross-country for our honeymoon, the day we brought our son Richard home from the hospital. To me, it was more than a car, it was us. My grandkids, though, they saw it as a punchline. Richard, my 45-year-old son, and his wife Abigail lived in a gated community an hour away, in a mansion it helped fund. Alex, Arya, and Jordan grew up with everything: private schools, designer clothes, European vacations, all because of the wealth Henry and I built through our real estate business. After Henry's death, I sold the company for $23 million, keeping it quiet to avoid greedy hands. I wanted my family to love me for me, not my bank account. So I lived simply, drove my Corolla, and funneled money into trusts for my grandkids, including monthly payments for that Lamborghini they flaunted. The trouble started at our annual family reunion, held at Richard and Abigail's sprawling estate. I'd driven up in my Corolla, parking between their luxury cars like a sore thumb. As I stepped out, Alex spotted me first. "Yo, Gran, you still driving that relic?" he called, loud enough for the whole family to hear. Arya chimed in, "It's like older than me." The cousins roared with laughter, and even Abigail smirked, sipping her wine. Richard just looked away, avoiding my eyes. I swallowed the sting, brushing it off. "It gets me where I need to go," I said lightly, but inside I felt small. Later at dinner, the mockery didn't stop. Jordan leaned over, grinning. "Gran, why don't you sell that junk and get something decent? You're embarrassing us." Abigail added, "Honestly, Harper, it's not just the car. You dress like you're stuck in the 90s too." The table erupted again, and I sat there, forcing a smile, my fork trembling in my hand. Lydia, my daughter, tried to change the subject, but the damage was done. I felt like an outsider in my own family. That night, I lay awake in their guest room, replaying their words. I'd given them everything: college funds, cars, even that Lamborghini they loved showing off. Yet here I was, a joke to them. I thought of Henry, how he'd always said, "Harper, you're tougher than you know." I wasn't sure I believed him anymore, but something shifted in me. I wasn't going to let their cruelty define me. Next morning, I called Emma, my best friend since high school. "They think I'm nothing without my money," I told her, my voice cracking. Emma, always the firecracker, didn't miss a beat. "Harper, you're sitting on millions and they're laughing. Show them who you are." Her words lit a spark. I hung up and dialed Mr. William Carter, my lawyer. "William," I said, "I need to see the trust documents and Henry's will." He paused, then said, "Harper, there's something you need to know. Come to my office tomorrow." As I drove home in my Corolla, the engine humming its familiar tune, I felt a storm brewing inside me. My grandkids thought they could mock me and still cash my checks. They were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. But what William revealed the next day would change everything, not just for them, but for me. I pulled into Mr. Carter's office lot, my Corolla rattling as I parked beside his sleek Mercedes. My hands were clammy, gripping the steering wheel, Henry's old keychain dangling a tiny silver compass he'd given me on our 10th anniversary. "To always find your way," he'd said. I hadn't felt this lost since he died. Inside, William greeted me with a warm handshake, his office smelling of leather and old books. "Harper," he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk, "Henry left you more than you think." I frowned, opening it. The first page was the trust Id set up for Alex, Arya, and Jordan $500,000 each plus the Lamborghini payments. But beneath it was Henry's will with a sealed letter Id never seen. My heart thudded as I broke the wax seal, Henry's handwriting staring back at me. Harper, my love, it began, if you're reading this, you've been carrying the weight too long. It's time to take back what's yours. I looked at William, confused. He smiled faintly. Keep reading. The letter detailed a secret Henry kept even from me. Our real estate empire wasn't just the $23 million Id sold it for. He'd hidden asset stocks, properties, even a stake in a car dealership under a private trust only I could access. You're worth over $50 million, Harper, William said. And there's more. Henry left you controlling shares in Ross's Luxury Autos. You own the dealership that sold your grandkids that Lamborghini. My jaw dropped. Vincenzo Rossi, the charming owner, had been a friend of Henry's. I'd never known Henry owned half his business. William leaned forward. You've been paying for that car out of your personal account, but you could have repossessed it any time. It's your call. I drove home in a daze, Henry's letter on the passenger seat. My grandkids' laughter echoed in my mind, Alex's sneer, Arya's giggle, Jordan's smirk. They thought I was some broke old widow clinging to a rusty car. They didn't know I could pull the rug out from under them. But did I want to? I'd raised Richard to be better than this, hadn't I? I thought of the reunion, how he'd stayed silent while Abigail and the kids tore me down. My chest ached. I'd spent years playing the quiet, generous grandma, but maybe Emma was right. Maybe it was time to stop. That evening, I invited Lydia and her husband Tom over for coffee. Lydia, my youngest, was always my rock-kind, grounded, nothing like Richard's flashy lifestyle. Over steaming mugs, I told her everything. The reunion, the mockery, Henry's letter. Her eyes widened. Mom, they've been using you, she said, her voice sharp. Alex bragged to me last week about how they're milking Grandma's guilt money. They think you're an ATM. Tom nodded. Harper, you've got the power here. What's your move? I stared into my coffee, the steam curling like my swirling thoughts. I didn't want revenge, not exactly. I wanted them to feel what I felt, to understand. The next morning, I called Vincenzo Rossi. Vincenzo, I said, my voice steady, about that Lamborghini I've been paying for. He chuckled. Harper, I was wondering when you'd call. Henry told me you'd figure it out someday. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath. Stop the payments. Send a tow truck. He didn't hesitate. Consider it done. I hung up, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I wasn't just taking their car. I was taking back my dignity. 2 days later, I got a call from Richard. Mom, what the hell? He shouted. The dealership just towed the Lambo. Alex is losing his mind. I stayed calm, picturing Alex's smug face crumpling. I don't know what you mean, Richard, I said sweetly. Maybe they couldn't afford it. He sputtered, then hung up. An hour later, Arya texted me. Gran, this is a mistake, right? You'd never do this to us. I didn't reply. Let them sweat. But that wasn't the end of it. Emma called me that night, her voice urgent. Harper, you need to check your mailbox. There's something from Henry's old lawyer, something he said only you should see. My stomach dropped. Another secret. I walked outside, the Georgia heat heavy, and opened the rusty mailbox. Inside was a small, sealed envelope with my name in Henry's handwriting. My fingers trembled as I tore it open, and what I read made my blood run cold. The envelope shook in my hands as I stood under the flickering porch light, Henry's familiar scrawl staring back at me. Harper, if you've found this, you're ready for the truth, the letter began. My heart raced. Henry had always been full of surprises, but this felt different, heavier. The letter continued. I knew Richard and Abigail might let wealth change them. I saw it years ago. That's why I set up a second trust, one only you control. It's not just money, Harper, it's leverage. Use it to remind them who you are. Attached was a single page detailing a trust worth $10 million, accessible only by me, with a clause. If my grandchildren showed disrespect or ingratitude, I could redirect the funds to anyone I chose. My breath caught. Henry had seen this coming, me grandkids' entitlement, their mockery. He'd given me a weapon. I sat on my porch swing, the creak of the chains matching the churn in my mind. Alex, Arya, and Jordan hadn't just mocked my car, they'd mocked me, my life, my sacrifices. And Richard, he'd stood by, letting Abigail's sharp tongue and his kids' arrogance chip away at me. I thought of the Lamborghini, now sitting in Ross's lot, repossessed because I'd stopped the payments. Their panic felt good, but it wasn't enough. Henry's letter was a call to action. I wasn't just a grieving widow or a pushover grandma. I was Harper, the woman who'd built an empire with her husband, and I was done being invisible. The next day I drove to Emma's house, the letter tucked in my purse. Over tea, I showed it to her. Her eyes widened as she read. "Harper, this is a game changer," she said, slamming her cup down. "They think they're untouchable, but you hold all the cards. What's your plan?" I sipped my tea, the bitterness mirroring my mood. "I want them to learn respect," I said, "not just for me, but for what Henry and I built." Emma grinned. "Then hit them where it hurts their lifestyle, but be careful. Abigail's cunning. She'll come for you." Emma was right. That evening, Abigail called, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Harper, darling, there's been a terrible mix-up with the car. Surely you didn't mean to do this to the kids." I pictured her in her marble kitchen, clutching her pearls. "No mix-up, Abigail," I said coolly. "I paid for that car." I stopped. Silence. Then her tone hardened. "You're punishing them for a little teasing. That's low, even for you." I laughed softly. "Teasing? They called me a broke embarrassment. You laughed too." She stammered, then hung up. I knew she'd rally the kids to fight back. I was ready. The next morning, I met with Mr. Carter again. "William," I said, sliding Henry's letter across his desk, "I want to amend the trust. If Alex, Aria, and Jordan don't apologize sincerely, I'm redirecting their funds." William raised an eyebrow. "To whom?" I smiled. "Lydia, she's never asked for a dime." He nodded, scribbling notes. "And there's more, Harper," Rossi called. "He's ready to transfer the dealership's controlling shares to you. You'd be his boss." My pulse quickened. Owning the dealership meant I could control more than just one car. I could control their world. That afternoon, I drove my Corolla to Ross's Luxury Autos, the lot gleaming with sports cars. Vincenz greeted me like an old friend, his Italian accent warm. "Harper, Henry always said you were the brains behind the operation. Ready to take the wheel?" He handed me a contract, signing over 51% of the dealership. As I signed, I felt Henry's presence, his compass keychain in my pocket. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my place. But trouble was brewing. When I got home, Richard was waiting in my driveway, arms crossed, face red. "Mom, what are you doing?" he barked. "Alex says you're ruining their lives over a car." I stepped out of my Corolla, standing tall. "It's not about the car, Richard, it's about respect." He scoffed. "You're being dramatic. They're kids." I held his gaze. "And you're their father. Why didn't you stop them?" His silence was deafening. As he stormed off, my phone buzzed with a text from Aria. "Gran, we're coming over tomorrow. We need to talk." My stomach tightened. They were planning something, and I had a feeling it wasn't an apology. The morning sun filtered through my kitchen curtains as I brewed coffee, the aroma grounding me amid the chaos. I'd barely slept, Henry's second letter replaying in my mind like a haunting melody. It wasn't just about the money, it was his way of protecting me, even from beyond the grave. I set out mugs and cookies, steeling myself for the confrontation. At 10 a.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. There they were, Alex, Aria, and Jordan, with Richard and Abigail in tow. Alex looked disheveled, his usual cocky grin replaced by a scowl. Aria fidgeted with her phone, avoiding my eyes. Jordan slouched, hands in pockets. Abigail strode in first, her designer heels clicking like accusations. "Harper, we need to sort this out," she said, her voice laced with forced calm. Richard hung back, mumbling a hello. We settled in the living room, my modest furniture a stark contrast to their opulent tastes. I poured coffee, letting the silence stretch. Finally, Alex broke it. "Gran, about the Lambo, we're sorry if we upset you. But towing it, that's extreme. I need it for work." I raised an eyebrow. "Work? You mean joyrides and Instagram posts?" Aria jumped in, her voice whiny. "Come on, Gran, we were just joking at the reunion." "You know we love you. Can't you fix this?" Jordan nodded vigorously. "Yeah, it's not fair. That car was a gift." I sipped my coffee, watching their face desperation masked as remorse. Abigail leaned forward, her eyes calculating. "Harper, think of the family. Henry wouldn't want this division. Reinstate the payments and well forget it ever happened." My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to believe them, to hug my grandkids and pretend it was all a misunderstanding. But Henry's words echoed. "Remind them who you are." I set my mug down. "A gift. I've been paying the installments anonymously for 2 years. And the reunion wasn't joking, it was humiliation. You called my car junk, me an embarrassment. You laughed while I sat there, bleeding inside." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "Gran, we didn't mean I cut him off. You did. And Richard, you let them." My son looked down, shame flickering in his eyes. Abigail's facade cracked. You're overreacting. They're young. What do you want, groveling? I stood, walking to the window, gazing at my Corolla in the driveway. It symbolized everything I'd lost and everything I still had. I want sincerity, I said softly, not this performance. Arya's eyes welled with tears, crocodile ones, I suspected. Please, Gran, well visit more help around here. Jordan added, yeah, and we won't say anything about your car again. I turned, my voice firm. It's not just the car. It's respect for the life Henry and I built. The sacrifices we made so you could have everything. Richard finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Mom, I am sorry, I should have stopped them. For a moment I softened. He was my boy after all. Abigail ruined it. Enough dramatics, Harper. If you don't fix this, well, Sue. That trust is family money, my blood boiled Sue. Over money they hadn't earned, I smiled coldly, go ahead. But first, know this, Henry left me control. I can redirect everything. Their faces paled. Alex stammered, what do you mean? I didn't elaborate. Leave now, think about what family means. As they filed out, Abigail whispered to Richard, loud enough for me to hear, she's bluffing. She's always been weak. The door slammed, and I sank into a chair, tears streaming. Weak? No. Hurt, yes. But Henry's letters had awakened something fierce in me. That afternoon, I called Lydia. They came, but it was all fake, I told her, my voice breaking. She sighed. Mom, you did right. Tom and I are coming over tonight. You're not alone. As I hung up, my phone buzzed a voicemail from Vincennes. Harper, I've got news about the dealership. There's a buyer interested, but it's tied to your family. Call me back. My pulse raced. Tied to my family? What had Richard and Abigail been hiding? This wasn't over, it was just beginning to unravel. I paced my living room, the voicemail from Vincennes replaying in my head. A buyer tied to my family. My mind raced with possibilities. Had Richard and Abigail been scheming behind my back? I dialed Vincennes back, my voice steadier than I felt. Vincennes, who's the buyer? He hesitated. Harper, it's a shell company, but I traced it. It leads to Abigail's maiden name through her brother. They're offering top dollar, but only if we keep it quiet. My breath hitched. Abigail's brother. He was a shady investor, always sniffing around our family wealth. So while they were apologizing, Abigail was trying to snatch the dealership from under me. The betrayal stung deeper than the mockery. I thanked Vincennes and hung up, sinking onto the couch. Tears welled up, hot and unbidden. How had my family become this? Henry and I had poured our souls into building something lasting, only for it to be torn apart by greed. That evening, Lydia and Tom arrived with take-out-me favorites, fried chicken and peach cobbler. We sat on the porch, the Georgia twilight painting the sky in oranges and pinks. Mom, tell us everything, Lydia said, her hand on mine. I spilled it all, the fake apologies, Abigail's threat to sue the secret buyer. Tom whistled low. That's low, even for her. What now? I wiped my eyes, the compass keychain in my pocket, a reminder of Henry's guidance. I confront them, but not alone. Lydia squeezed my hand. We're with you. You've been resilient all these years, mom widowing, selling the business, dealing with their entitlement. It's time they see your strength. Her words bolstered me. For so long, I'd buried my pain, playing the role of the forgiving grandma. But resilience wasn't just enduring, it was fighting back. The next day, I drove to Richard's mansion, my Corolla chugging up the gated drive. I'd called ahead, saying it was urgent. They were all there, gathered in the grand living room like a tribunal. Alex lounged on the couch, Arya scrolled her phone, Jordan avoided my gaze. Abigail stood by the window, arms crossed, Richard beside her looking weary. What is it now, Mom? He sighed. I held up the dealership contract, my voice calm but edged. I own Rosses now, and I know about the buyer, Abigail's brother. Abigail's face drained of color. How? I cut her off, doesn't matter. You tried to buy it out from under me while pretending to apologize. Alex sat up. Wait, you own the dealership? Like the whole thing, Arya's eyes widened. Gran, that's huge. Jordan muttered, no way. Richard stepped forward, his voice pleading. Mom, Abigail was just exploring options. We didn't know you owned it. Abigail glared at him. Don't throw me under the bus, Richard. The room erupted, accusations flying, Alex defending his mom, Arya tearing up. I stood amid the chaos, my heart pounding but my resolve ironclad. Enough, I shouted, silencing them. This ends now. The trust Henry left, I control it. Mock me again, scheme against me, and it goes to Lydia. Abigail laughed bitterly. You wouldn't, you're too soft. I met her eyes, try me. As I turned to leave, Richard grabbed my arm. Mom, please, let's talk, but I pulled away. You had your chance. Driving home, the weight of it all crashed over me. Pain from their betrayal mixed with a fierce pride stood up for myself. Emma called as I pulled in. How'd it go? I told her, my voice trembling, their unraveling. But so am I, she paused. Harper, you're stronger than them. Henry knew it. That night I pored over Henry's letters again, finding solace in his words. My struggle wasn't over, but I was resilient. I'd rebuild, even if it meant letting go. But the next morning brought a twist. Mr. Carter called, urgent. Harper, come quick. There's a clause in Henry's will I missed something about the grandkids' inheritance. It could change everything, but it's risky. My hands shook. What had Henry hidden this time? And would it save my family or destroy it? I rushed to Mr. Carter's office, my Corolla weaving through traffic, my mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. What clause had he missed? Henry's will was already a maze of secret trusts, letters, hidden assets. As I parked, I clutched the compass keychain, whispering to Henry in my mind, guide me through this. William ushered me in, his face grave. Spread across his desk were yellowed pages from the will. Marked with red ink. Harper, he said, pointing to a buried paragraph, this is a morality clause. Henry added it quietly before he passed. It states that if the grandchildren exhibit moral turpitude or familial disloyalty, their inheritance can be forfeited, entirely redirected to charity or a designee of your choice. My eyes widened. Moral turpitude, disloyalty. Their mockery, the scheming with Abigail's brother, it fit perfectly. But William warned it's risky. Invoking it means a family court battle. They could drag your name through the mud. I sat back, the leather chair creaking under me. The emotional weight pressed down, years of quiet pain, of watching my grandkids morph into entitled strangers under Abigail's influence. I thought of Alex's sneers, Arya's fake tears, Jordan's indifference. They weren't just ungrateful, they were disloyal to the very roots that fed them. Yet invoking this felt like a nuclear option. What if I give them one last chance? I asked. William nodded. You could. But Harper, protect yourself. Henry designed this for a reason. As I left, the clause burned in my pocket, a photocopy, my potential salvation or destruction. The struggle tore at me. The loving grandma versus the wounded woman demanding justice. That night, alone in my house, I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, staring at the stars. Memories flooded in Henry and I dancing in this very room, young and broke, laughing about our dreams. Richard as a boy climbing into my lap for stories. Lydia's birth, the joy of completing our family. But then the darkness, Henry's cancer, his quiet fade, leaving me to navigate the greed that followed. Tears streamed down my face. I'd been resilient, holding it together for them, but at what cost? My heart ached with betrayal's sharp edges. Emma called, sensing my turmoil. Harper, you've carried this family on your back. If they want change, let go. Her words echoed Henry's letters. Resilience wasn't martyrdom, it was boundaries. The next day, I invited the whole family to a neutral spot, a quiet cafe downtown. Lydia and Tom came for support, sitting beside me as Richard's crew arrived. Abigail looked smug, Richard exhausted, the grandkids fidgety. Gran, is this about the car again? Alex asked, rolling his eyes. I laid out the photocopy. No, it's about Henry's will. A morality clause. Your actions mocking me, scheming to buy my assets qualify as disloyalty. I can strip your inheritance. Gasps rippled. Arya burst into real tears this time. Gran, no, we didn't mean to hurt you that bad. Jordan paled. Please, well, change. Abigail snarled, this is blackmail. Richard silenced her. Abby, enough. Mom, what do you want from us? I looked at each of them, my voice breaking. Genuine remorse. Visits without asking for money. Respect for my life, my car, my choices, or I invoke this. The calf fell silent, tension thick. Alex spoke first, his voice small. I am sorry, Gran, really, I was stupid. Arya nodded, sniffling. We took you for granted. Jordan mumbled agreement. Richard's eyes met mine, filled with regret. Mom, I failed you. I'll make it right. Abigail stayed quiet, fuming. For the first time, hope flickered. Maybe this was the turning point. But as we left, Abigail pulled Richard aside, whispering furiously. Lydia noticed, whispering to me, she's not done fighting. Back home, doubt crept in. Was their remorse real or just fear? My emotional journey had been a roller coaster, pain, anger, now tentative hope. But that evening, Tom called with alarming news. Harper, I dug into Abigail's brother. He's not backing off the dealership bid. And there's emails between him and Abigail plotting to contest the will. My blood ran cold. They were still scheming. The betrayal hit like a fresh wound. I had to act, but how? The climax was coming. and it would either heal us or shatter everything. Tom's words hit me like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile hope Id clung to after the CAF meeting. Emails plotting to contest Henry's will. Abigail and her brother weren't backing down, they were escalating. My hands trembled as I hung up, the phone slipping from my grasp. The pain surged, a tidal wave of betrayal crashing over me. How could they? After everything Henry's deathbed wishes, my years of silent generosity. I paced the kitchen, the old linoleum creaking under my feet, memories flashing. Henry's laugh, Richard's childhood hugs, the grandkids' innocent smiles before greed twisted them. But now resilience turned to resolve. I wouldn't let them steal Henry's legacy. I called Mr. Carter. William, invoke the morality clause. Redirect everything to Lydia and Charity. He paused. Are you sure, Harper? This is final. I whispered, yes, it's time. The next morning, I arranged one last family gathering at Ross's dealership now. Vincenzo had cleared the showroom, the gleaming cars a backdrop for the showdown. I stood by a polished Ferrari, Henry's compass keychain in my fist as they arrived. Richard looked haggard, Abigail defiant, the grandkids uneasy. Lydia and Tom flanked me, Emma on speakerphone for moral support. What's this about, Mom? Richard asked, eyeing the lot. I held up printed emails Tom had forwarded them, hacked legally through a Pi friend. This, I said, my voice steel. You're contesting the will while pretending to apologize? Abigail's eyes narrowed. Those are private. Alex shifted. Mom, what did you do? The climax erupted like a storm. I nodded to Vincenzo, who wheeled in a projector. On screen, the emails in bold detailing their plan to declare me unfit and seize the assets. Gasps filled the room. Arya covered her mouth. Gran, we didn't know. Jordan stammered. This is messed up. Richard turned to Abigail, fury in his eyes. You dragged us into this. She snapped back. For our family. She's hoarding it all. I stepped forward, tears stinging but my chin high. No, Abigail. Henry left it to me because he knew. Your greed, your mockery, it ends here. William entered then, papers in hand. The morality clause is invoked, trusts redirected. Lamborghini sold at auction. Dealership stays mine. Abigail's face crumpled, shock twisting her features. She lunged for the papers, but Vincenzo blocked her. You're trespassing now, Mom. Humiliation washed over them in waves. Alex dropped to his knees, sobbing. Gran, please. I'll lose everything, me apartment, my life. Arya wailed, clutching Jordan, who just stared blankly. Richard collapsed into a chair, head in hands. Mom, I am so sorry. I let this happen. Abigail, isolated, screamed, You witch, you've destroyed us. But her voice broke, tears streaming as security escorted her out. The grandkids begged, their pleas raw-gone were the smirks, replaced by desperate regret. I felt the emotional release then, a dam bursting. Tears poured down my face, mixing sorrow with triumph. I'd lost the family I thought I had, but gained my self-respect. Henry's spirit felt close, approving. In the aftermath, as they left in defeat, Abigail storming off alone. Richard promising to divorce and rebuild, the grandkids vowing change. I stood in the empty showroom, clutching the keychain. The pain lingered, but so did hope. Lydia hugged me. You did it, Mom. You're free. Weeks later, I sold part of the dealership for charity, kept the Corolla as my daily driver, and bought a modest hybrid for fun. The grandkids started visiting genuinely, working jobs, earning my trust back slowly. Richard sought therapy. Abigail faded into irrelevance. I reflected on my journey, from heartbroken widow to empowered matriarch. Henry had given me the tools, I'd found the strength. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mindance and all. Thanks for listening. If this story hit you in the heart, don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.